Hello, I'm Isaac Ofelia representing Team 4. Today I'm going to be presenting our analysis of Case Study 2, Toyota Supplier Relations. So here's a layout of our presentation, starting with a brief description, followed by key lessons learned. We will then connect our findings to Module 2's concepts and share Team 4's advice, offering recommendations and improvements. Next, we will discuss how supplier relations have evolved, analyze relevance of our findings to our work, and conclude with key takeaways. So around the time of the making of the 1997 Suprema model, Toyota was mainly headquartered in Japan and had this framework of trust-based relationships with their suppliers. And this is really what the bread and butter of the lean just-in-time systems was. Without it, as we're going to see, the system becomes very vulnerable. So around this time, they were pursuing global expansion because they wanted to create a strong competitive network of suppliers across countries, and they also didn't want to be as vertically integrated. So they decided to outsource their rear suspension cradles to the North American supplier Chassis Co. So looking at the diagram for the Jidoka part of the Toyota production system, we can see that this is a system that heavily relies on attention to detail. There is a human aspect to this. It's not just machines, of understanding how to respond and when to respond to the anomalies detected, along with the just-in-time principles of scheduling and making sure that there is enough or that there's not an excessive amount of inventory at a given time. This is the reason why Toyota looks for suppliers who can work with their systems, not just those with technical skills. They also have to have the willingness to adapt. With Chassis Co, Toyota overestimated their readiness. On paper, they looked like they were capable, but their supply chain and resources couldn't support the Suprema project. It's important to understand that just-in-time, or JIT, is more than inventory control. At Toyota, JIT requires coordination across the entire production and distribution system, including scheduling, quality, product development, and supplier management. Chassis Co needed to improve in all of these areas to meet Toyota's production goals. So when Toyota stepped back in 2003 and gave Chassis Co more autonomy, they assumed the supplier had matured, but that never actually happened. Chassis Co was expected to source, track, and optimize 85 parts from Tier 2 suppliers, but they lacked the systems like parts tracking and structures like StageGate project management. Even though Toyota provided extensive training in the Toyota production system, it wasn't enough to prepare Chassis Co for the full responsibility. So if we take a look at figure 1 over here to the left, this is a diagram that shows the stages of the typical automotive supply chain from raw materials all the way to the customer delivery. So Chassis Co's failure actually happened right in the middle of this process between Tier 2 suppliers and Tier 1 supplies. Specifically, they couldn't manage the sourcing, coordination, and handling of the 85 parts coming from Tier 2 into Tier 1 systems. This breakdown at the Tier 2 to Tier 1 level had a ripple effect, which was the delays at Tier 1, which led to problems at the assembly plant, which then pushed back distribution to dealers and customers. What this shows is that even a single point of misalignment can disrupt the entire chain. It's not enough for a supplier to have technical skills. They also need to have the maturity, systems, and ecosystem awareness to manage the upstream and downstream flow. Without that readiness, every stage after feels the impact. So there were 3 key lessons learned from the Chassis case that are critical in supply chain management. The first being balancing efficiency and responsiveness. The aim of sufficient supply chains is to cut costs, while responsive ones are built to adapt using modular designs and flexible operations. Toyota needed a responsive partner, but Chassis Co was not set up for that. The 85 rear suspension parts should have been more modular to simplify the supply chain and reduce cost. When a product design is complex, the supply chain must be ready for unexpected challenges. If it's too lean without built-in flexibility, small issues can quickly grow. The second point is supplier readiness goes beyond technical skill. In high-volume manufacturing, things like cultural fit, process discipline, and scalability matter just as much as engineering talent. Chassis Co lacked key systems, project management, and the ability to manage Tier 2 suppliers. Toyota assumed that they were ready, but didn't properly assess their ability to scale or adapt lean systems. Third, one weak link can break the whole chain. Even the best designed systems are only as strong as their weakest part. Chassis Co became a bottleneck that disrupted Toyota's production goals. This shows the importance of full supply chain visibility, risk planning, and vetting every link in the chain, especially during product rollouts. So how is this related to Module 2? Well, In the case of Chassis Co. and Toyota, we see a clear example of what happens when a company fails to align its competitive strategy with its supply chain strategy. As we learned in Module 2, this alignment called strategic fit is critical for success. When the supply chain can't support the company's goals, things break down. There are 5 key levers companies can use to manage uncertainty and work towards strategic fit: capacity, inventory, time, information, and price. In the case, Chassis Co. was overwhelmed with other projects and didn't have the proper project or supplier management, which hurt their capacity. Toyota also had really specific part level requirements, which may have caused Chassis Co. to over-engineer parts, unlike other automakers who just cared about the final assembly. Time was also a problem because Chassis Co.'s automated welding system didn't adapt well to part variations, causing defects that Toyota didn't have the resources to fix quickly. There was also major issues with information and price. Chassis Co. was spread out globally, which caused communication problems, and they had no system for tracking defects or making sure bad parts didn't reach Toyota. It wasn't until late in the project that someone stepped up with a checklist to help sort things out. On the price side, Toyota expected low prices based on efficient processes, not suppliers losing money just to meet targets. Chassis Co. managed to hit cost goals by pushing work to Tier 2 suppliers, but that hurt the quality and delivery time. Plus, their accounting systems didn't separate development costs from regular operations, making it hard to manage the project properly. Overall, this case shows how important it is to have your supply chain and competitive strategy working together, and how problems across those 5 levers can cause a lot of issues when the alignment isn't there. Here is Team 4's advisement and what we would have done differently. First, we would have given Chassis Co. a much more rigorous evaluation before handing them Tier 1 responsibilities, because strategic supplier selection is critical, especially for complex components like rear suspensions. Second, we would have done much less hand-holding during the initial stages of working with Chassis Co. just to get a more accurate read on their capabilities, because Toyota inadvertently limited their ability to assess Chassis Co.'s independent capabilities in project management and lean JIT operations just off of the fact that they were hand-holding them so deeply in the beginning stages of their of working together. Another thing that we would have done different is Chassis Co.'s management of their people, and they could have been much more intentional and proactive with their responses, and they could have implemented their respect for people principle of the Toyota way much more. Also, Toyota could have sent a backup engineer that was familiar with the designs to provide on-site leadership and technical guidance to the crew of Chassis Co. during the crisis. And finally, we'd recommend setting up a clear defect tracking and feeding loop. Without it, issues go undetected, leading to delays and wasted cost. With a system in place, problems could be caught and fixed early, improving quality and efficiency. So what happened at Chassis Co.? Well, in late 2004, Chassis Co.'s Athens plant struggled with 60% capacity and high defect rates, prompting Toyota to intervene. Chassis Co.'s failure to meet Toyota standards risked its reputation, future business, and partnership. Without improvement, Toyota might have decided to shift its investments elsewhere. There's limited information on whether Chassis Co. fully recovered from these setbacks. Absence of clear evidence leaves questions about the company's current performance and long-term impact of the crisis. Did it really matter? Well, there certainly was an effect on Toyota. The quality issues actually affected the launch and the performance of the Suprema crossover, and it might have led to affecting sales, brand reputation, and customer satisfaction. Was there an impact on Chassis Co.? The crisis exposed the organization's weakness in capability, structure, and leadership. It also showed that there is a need for aligning supply chain capabilities with strategic objectives. How is this relevant to work? Building strong supplier relationships requires 4 key practices: open communications for transparency and quick problem solving, clear expectations for accountability, thorough research to find aligned partners, and regular performance reviews for continuous improvement. Here are the key takeaways. Strategic fit is essential for successful supplier partnerships. Technical capability alone isn't enough. Suppliers must also demonstrate readiness, scalability, and process maturity. Lack of visibility and weak Tier 2 to Tier 1 coordination can disrupt the entire supply chain. Toyota's assumptions and chassis lack of systems led to breakdowns in capacity, quality, and communication. And future supplier selection must include structured assessments of operational readiness. Thank you.